All right. Hi, everyone. Thank you so much for joining me today at this very last minute pop-up live stream. I love doing these Q&A sessions. I love just getting to come on here and talk to you directly, talk to you about what you're working on and what sorts of challenges that you're facing right now with your writing. I usually structure these as a very informal, like hangout session where I just hang out and write my book on camera. And if nobody has any questions or if nobody is wanting to ask anything, then I will just sit here and work. And if people have questions, I'll just keep an eye on the comments. And as questions pop up, I will just honestly answer your questions. And then if you have follow-up questions, we can chat in the comments. Like you can write little comments and ask me questions, and then I can respond to them. I would love to talk to you about anything that you're going through concerning writing or self-publishing or any sorts of publishing. I'm a self-published author. I have no experience with traditional publishing, but I would always be happy to answer my questions to the best of my ability. And yeah, if you ever haven't like you if you have any questions, just let me know in the comments. Otherwise, I will be hanging out here. Oh, that's so cool. I'm so glad that you started They Stay. I hope that you're enjoying it. I am so proud of that book, and I hope that you enjoy reading it. Thank you so much for picking it up. That's very, very exciting. I miss They Stay. I haven't been writing and working on They Stay in a while because I finished the series last year, and I do kind of miss those characters. So one of these days, I'm gonna have to do a little bit of a reread just to go hang out with my friends. But yeah, thanks for stopping by. If you have any questions about writing or publishing, anything like that, just let me know and drop them in the comments, and I'd be super happy to answer them. But in the meantime, if I don't have any questions, I'm just gonna hang out here and I'm gonna write, do my favorite thing. I am currently working on the second book of my new series, and I've been writing that nonstop and drafting that nonstop. So I'm very psyched about that and really have been having a tough time working on anything else. So good afternoon. Thank you so much for stopping into the live stream. I'm so glad that you could make it. Thank you. I'm so glad that you're here. If you have any questions about writing or self-publishing, let me know and I'd be super happy to answer them. Cool, we have a question. How long does it take you to write a good first draft nowadays? This really depends on what I have going on in my life, and it also really depends on the book. Um, when I was writing the love trials, I wrote that first draft in about 6 weeks, but it was not very good. It was complete, but it was very, very messy. And I mean, all of my first drafts are pretty messy, but Love Trials was exceptionally messy because it was book one of a series, so all the characters were really new to me. If I'm writing like subsequent books in a series, it's slightly easier because at least I know like who all the people are. So I wrote that in 6 weeks, and then I spent pretty much the whole summer editing it. Like I started writing, I think I was done with my first draft in like mid-June, maybe. I wrote it in like May and the first half of June, and then I spent like mid-June all the way through like the end of September working on it and doing a draft two and really finalizing it. And then I sent it to beta readers right at the end of September. So 6 months, I guess, for the first like, or sorry, 6 weeks for the first kind of I'm banging it out and trying to get it on paper, but a couple of months before I'm really happy with it. And that's when I didn't really have other things going on in my personal life. This year, I've been working on this first draft of Love Trials Book Two for a couple of months now. I started writing it in May, and for like basically most of June and July, I was out of commission because I was having a lot of things going on in my personal life. So I am just getting back to work like full whole hog on it now, and I'm carrying it forward. But I anticipate I've actually just set my publishing calendar, and I have until the like mid-September to finish this, and then I'm going to be sending it out to beta readers. So Yeah, about a couple of months, I'd say. But I mean, good is arguable. For someone who hasn't studied writing or has any experience, how can I get over the trouble or fear of with actually writing and work towards getting my story out on paper? I totally understand how nerve-wracking it can be, especially when you're just starting out with writing. What I would recommend is try not to get too bogged down with like learning how to write when you're just getting started and just writing your first draft. Sometimes a lot of people can fall into the pit of like getting, especially if you're a perfectionist, of getting really nervous about actually writing and like watching a million YouTube videos about writing and taking courses about writing. And then what that can do, at least in my experience, is it made me overthink everything that I wrote and every single word that I put down and every sentence that I wrote. And it would almost stress me out to the point where I couldn't really like achieve a flow or put stuff down on the page naturally because I was so nervous about being a good writer and writing well. I would say that the best thing that you can do is find a story idea you're really excited about and just take a stab at it and do your best. Read a lot. Try to pay attention to the things like the way that stories are structured as you're reading and the things that you like in stories that you read and just write the story that comes out of your heart and try to get really excited about it and just dump words on the page. And then at the same time, watch a couple of writing YouTube videos and just like start to kind of think about some craft things. Don't overwhelm yourself. Do this in tandem with drafting. Don't like try to learn everything first and then write later. Try to do them both at the same time because then you're not going to kill your motivation. And then you can also slowly broaden your horizons and learn things one thing at a time. That's what I would recommend. But really, there's nothing that beats just diving in and starting to write. Oh, wow. Look at all these questions. Thank you all so much for asking me all these questions. I'm so excited. Um, I am a plotter. I've been a plotter, or actually, no, I'm a little bit of a planter now. I have been a plotter for a very long time. I was a hardcore plotter when I started this channel, and when I was like really, really starting to write, I would plot everything. And now that I've written, I think it's like 10-ish books, like depending on what you count as a book. Like if it's, I have a couple first drafts and things like that doodling around. But now that I've written like 10-ish books, I am a lot more confident about my ability to tell a story and to piece a story together. And I trust my gut a lot more. I trust my emotions more than I trust my like head and more than I trust the logical, like intellectual way of piecing together a story and a story structure. I trust my feeling and like what I feel like I want to have happen in the book right now or what my emotions are telling me I want to do. And so I'm using that as a guide now more. And I didn't use that really as a guide before. So I was a much more intellectual plotter when I wrote They Stay. And with the love trials and now with the second book in this series, I'm pantsing that a lot more. But I mean, I pants my way through outlines and I use outlines as a tool. So if like with the love trials, I just started writing and I had a little outline, like I wrote the outline in a day and then I just hit the ground running and I wrote all the way until the end. And then I never had to update the outline. With Love Trials book two, it's been more of an organic process. Like I've drafted and then I've hit a point where I'm like, oh, something about this isn't working. I don't like it. So I go back and I re-outline and then, I figure things out as they go. And then as I'm writing, I see new opportunities, like I discover new things that I can add to the story and then change course as I'm writing. So I'd say a little bit of both. I'd say I'm a planter. Um, all right, let's see. Oh, They Stay and the Love Trials arrived today for me. So excited after months of binging your work. Oh, that's so exciting. Thank you so much for ordering them. And I'm so excited for you to read them. I really, really, really hope that you enjoy them. I'm so proud of both those books. Yes, this is so exciting. What are your favorite genres to read and what are your favorite to write? So I write like paranormal thrillers is kind of what I write. Like I've been writing ghost horror for the past few years. And my most recent book is about a team of ghost hunters that hunt the ghosts of serial killers. And it also has a very strong, like, enemies to lovers subplot, which is kind of includes elements of dark romance. It's not a dark romance book, but it combines like dark romance and horror and thrillers and all. It's kind of a bit of a genre bend. So that's my favorite genre to write. If you can really call it a genre, it's a little bit of a genre mashup. Um, I read all over the place. I really predominantly read fiction. I don't read a lot of nonfiction just because I love story and I just love consuming stories. Um, I do read some fantasy. I'm not a huge fantasy reader, but I read more like romantasy. I read a lot of romance. I love reading romance. I love reading dark romance. I love reading any like serial killer thrillers. I guess so. I read in similar genres to what I write. And I'll also pick up like, some TikTok viral books because sometimes they're really fun to read and sometimes I'm very pleasantly surprised. So that's typically what I like to read, which is very similar to what I like to write. Um, all right, let's see. Hi, Claire, I love your videos, and I was wondering how you recommend brainstorming the beginning of a novel and making decisions on what to include versus not include. So, do you mean like brainstorming how you're going to start your novel, or like the kinds of brainstorming that you do at the beginning of the novel writing process? Because the way that I usually start, if I have a book idea, is if I put a lot of pressure on myself to like come up with the right ideas right off of the bat, it shuts me down and it doesn't allow me to be really creative. So I have to keep things really light and playful and fun. So what I do is I will take a little stack of sticky notes and I will write down any scene that I can think of that fits into the general structure of the story that I want to tell. So anything that like is exciting to me, if I'm like listening to music and I come up with like a certain scene that like, the characters could be doing, then I'll write it on the sticky note and I'll run home and I'll like add it to my sticky note pile. So I write down all these sticky notes. I do one stab at it at the beginning and then I sort of arrange it in a rough beginning, middle, and end. And then I'll just leave it there. Like I'll do it on my kitchen table or on the counter or on the wall or something with my little sticky notes. And I will just add to it as I see fit. And I'll just like start sticking sticky notes in roughly the area of the story that they would belong in. And this is really fun. It's like tactile, like I can actually like physically put it on the wall. And write down a new scene idea, and so that makes keeps it really light and fun. And I don't do it all at once. I really find that the best brainstorming that I do is when I'm completely relaxed, like in times of deadline or high stress or anything where I'm really like overwhelmed. I am absolutely terrible at coming up with ideas. But when I'm really relaxed, if I'm on vacation, if I'm out of traveling, or if I'm camping or hiking or doing something completely away from work for a little while and just like quiet with my brain, I come up with my best ideas. And especially like if I'm fishing, like that is one of the best times for me to come up with ideas just because it's really quiet and I'm just alone with my head for like in my head for extended periods of time. So I will in times when I'm brainstorming, I'll try to prioritize going out and doing things like that that take me away from the kind of work mode and put me into environments where I can really be playful and creative. And I listen to a lot of music and I come up with a lot of ideas while listening to music. So I also like listening to songs. And when I come up with an idea, I'll write it on my sticky note and then I'll go home and I'll stick them all in the rough order. And that will give me a general structure for how I like the general, or it'll give me a general structure for my first stab at an outline and at a book. Um, if oh yeah, this is yeah, like coming up with ideas. Yes, cool. All right, good. I'm glad that that was helpful. That's how I typically approach just the beginning stage of the process. But writing is supposed to be playful and it's supposed to be really fun, so I like keeping it light and playful and fun, especially at the beginning because you have to be creative to come up with a good story idea. um all right, when you plotted your novel, did you create your own plot or use the basic ones? I started with the basic ones, and I usually do. I usually start with a hero's journey. That's my favorite. I love, love, love using a hero's journey just because I write really character-driven stories. I don't always stick to the hero's journey exactly. I did for like when I was plotting They Stay, a lot of They Stay is very intellectually plotted. Like I was really trying to think of the correct thing to do, like the right way to open and the right way to raise tension and the right way to do, I don't know, like have the right plot twists in the right places. But I wasn't driven as much by emotion in some of those books. Like I mean, I still love them. They're really, really fun and I am so proud of them. But the way I approached the writing process wasn't so much like, how does this make me feel? And it was more like, how can I create a story with a beginning, middle, and end with the reversals and everything in the right place, like a traditional story structure? And so now, because I had the experience of writing so many books, like taking it in a more intellectual way, where I was really pushing myself to write a correct story that had all of these beats, I internalized a lot of those beats. And now, when I approach outlining a story, I just intrinsically kind of have a sense for how things are supposed to go. And I can focus more on how the plot is making me feel, and I just have a more natural sense for like how to come up with scenes that move the story forward and how to balance different scenes in a story. So I think that it's very, very helpful to be able to start by using basic like plot structure, because it's there for a reason, and readers expect plots to move and function in a certain way, even completely subconsciously. They might not know that they're expecting it, but if they find a plot that's totally out of the ordinary, something is just not going to work, or there's just going to be something about it that doesn't sit well with readers typically. So, what I would recommend doing is using a story structure like the hero's journey, and using it a lot, like write multiple books using those story structures until a story structure becomes more internalized for you. And then you can get a little bit creative. It's like learn the rules before you break them. And then you're going to understand how to break the rules in a way that still like very much engages your readers, and how to create plots that might not perfectly follow the traditional like hero's journey story structure, but still are structured very well. So that's what I recommend doing. Cool. Wow, I love all of these questions. Thank you all so much for asking me such good questions. Okay, what suggestions do you have for getting more reviews on Goodreads and Amazon? This is tricky. Getting more reviews just is that comes from selling more books. Like the more books that you sell, the more people will have read it, so the more people are going to review. I think that some like one easy thing that you can do and that I recommend doing that I do in my books is right at the end, you can do a little bit of a call to action. Like on your last page of your book, once the person like the people have read the very last line, you can do like a little page break. And right after that page break, you say, like, please go leave a review. I'd be so grateful if you left a review. You can't say it, I'm pretty sure it's against Amazon terms of service. Say like if you enjoyed it, please leave a review, because you they don't want people to like I think it's against the terms because they don't want you to encourage people only leaving positive reviews. You can only say like I'd be so grateful if you took the time to leave a review, like sharing your experience and what you thought of the book. Like it helps me so much. I'm an indie author, and like it really, really helps with book discoverability. And put a little bit of a plug for reviews at the end of the book. I typically have a link to buy the next book at the end of mine, but then I also have a page after that that asks people to leave reviews. The first one, obviously, that people see is going to be the strongest one. So you have to kind of pick whether you want read through or, a call to review first. But that's really just personal preference, whatever you want to do. That's a very easy way that you can try to ask people who are reading to review your book. But in order to actually get like people to get to the end of your book, you need to be selling many books, and a very small percentage of the people who read the book actually take the time to review. More people will rate the book. I found like on Goodreads right now for the Love Trials, I think I have around 1,000 ratings and then like 400 and something reviews, which is actually pretty strong. I think like that's a pretty good ratio. But I see like with a lot of published books, like they have way, way, way more ratings than reviews. And I know personally, I've actually tried to be better about this in the past couple of years. But before then, I would always like to rate books, and then I wouldn't usually leave time or take the time to leave reviews. So there are many more people that rate them instead of review them. So doing all the things that you would to try to increase your reach, trying to find out who your readers are, where you can reach them, how to reach them, all those things is going to be your main driver for getting reviews. Another thing that you could consider is doing like an ARC team when your book first comes out, putting together like a team of people, and then you give them an early copy, and then they can leave you a review in exchange for like a free early copy of the book. I did that, and that set me up really well pretty early from a review standpoint. I think I had like 300 reviews by about release day, um, because I had an ARC team that was really engaged. So that's another thing that I would recommend doing. Also, Amazon is stupid. It's really, really stupid with reviews. Goodreads is a lot more reliable. Like basically anyone can post a review to Goodreads. Amazon will be really, really picky, and they'll just take people's reviews down for no reason. They won't let people review. Like I had a lot of readers who were on my ARC team who tried to post to Amazon and were denied. So that can also be very frustrating. Alrighty. Um, How would you get feedback if you don't have beta readers? I really think beta readers are pretty important to have when you're writing a book. And I think taking the time to like find beta readers is very, very useful. I would never publish a book now if I didn't already like previously have beta readers work with it. But if you don't have beta readers, well, first of all, my first tip would be to go find them. But if you've decided that you really, really, really don't want beta readers, I think you could join a critique group and have other people critique your writing if in like a writing group environment. I think that you could do a critique swap. So you could like join a Facebook group, and some people say like, or some people are willing to read your book if you read their book and you swap critiques. Again, I don't find this as useful because beta readers who read in your genre are really the most important people to like be giving you feedback about your book. Another thing that you can do is pay for a manuscript assessment. Some editors will do a manuscript assessment for about like $500 or something in that range, and they'll read your book and give you like thorough comments on it. There are also paid beta readers that, might do it for $20, $40, not a lot of money. And you pay, there are a lot of scams out there. So be careful. I've been scammed before by paid beta readers. But if you don't have beta readers, that can be a good way. If you just, pay a couple of people to read your book that read in your genre, that can be a good place to start. Wow, these are all such awesome questions. Let's see. Um, Thank you so much for watching my videos. I'm very, very grateful. What feature do you think could help plotter type authors most on writing platforms? That's a good question. So I think that like in terms of writing software, one writing software that I've been very, very impressed by and that I really enjoy using is Dabble, because they have a plot grid feature that is tied into the writing software, and it also syncs to every single chapter. So it's structured kind of like Scrivener, but it also has a plot grid feature. And when you link the like buckets and folders that you have in Dabble to your plot grid, it will put all of the notes that you'd written in your plot grid into the sidebar of that chapter so you can see what that chapter has to do. So you can like separately take the time to work on your plot grid, and then all of your notes will just appear and populate in the chapter that is corresponding to that section of the plot grid. So I love that feature. I think it's incredible. I think it like they do a really, really, really good job with that. I think that I'm trying to think about my own writing process. I usually would plot grid in like Google Sheets or Excel, and then I write in Scrivener and just kind of switch back and forth between windows. But Dabble was really great because it doesn't actually need me, like, I don't need to do that with Dabble because I can just keep everything in one place. I think a timeline has been very helpful for me. I've started using Aeon Timeline to create a linear timeline of everything that happens in my book. And that has been incredibly useful to be able to plot out how long things take and the sequence and orders of events. So I would recommend looking into something like that too. But those are really the main things that I can think of. I think that definitely would help plotters, is just making the ability to plot much easier. All right, let's see. How do you write good character voice? This is a very good question and a very important question. I had a writing coach that really helped open my eyes to voice like 3 or 4 years ago. And I did a very big deep dive into voice, because this is at the time like I had a writing coach tell me that my writing didn't really have any voice. I didn't really understand what that meant. And because I was almost writing like a little bit intellectually too at the time, like I was just trying to learn how to write. And so I couldn't wrap my head around how like actionable steps I could take to improve my voice. Now it's make like it's so deeply ingrained in the way that I write that I don't really think about it, which is the goal, but I could only reach that point because I spent so much time slowly thinking intellectually about voice and being very intentional about the way that I approached voice. So I have made a couple of longer videos on the channel about voice that I recommend going and checking out, because they're gonna be a lot more in depth than this answer that I'm gonna give right now. And they're gonna go through all of the different exercises and things that I did to try to learn more about and improve my voice. I think that when you're writing first person, it's really important to like learn about how to differentiate character voices. And one actionable thing that really helped me, like an actual tip that or like thing that I did, an exercise that I did, was that I would go on YouTube and I would just like write sorry, I'd search for like a character, like a scene pack for a character that I had known about in TV. And then I would try to write like paragraphs in that character's voice. So I'd sit there. I love The Good Place. I'm a huge fan of the TV show The Good Place. I don't know if you have also read and enjoyed or watched and enjoyed that, but I would look at videos of like Chidi talking, and for a long time, like I'd rewatch these videos of Chidi talking over and over and over, and then I would take myself out of I'd close that window and then I'd open a new Word document, and I'm like, I'm gonna write a one-page paragraph in Chidi's voice about XYZ topic. And I would try to hear Chidi's voice talking because I'd watch those YouTube videos and try to like picture that voice and then emulate it onto the page. And then that kind of exercise of like, and I did like characters from Gilmore Girls, I did characters, like just all of my favorite characters from TV. I would try to picture how they would say things. And that exercise of putting myself in different characters' shoes was extremely helpful when I went to create my own character voices. And then something that I did with my own characters is I would give them comp characters at the beginning. So I'd be like, well, this character kind of talks similar to this. And then that would just be a jumping off point for me. And that could start to, if I had a cast of 4 characters, they all had different comp characters that were very different. And that helped me filter out the sorts of things that they would say versus not say. And as I became more practiced, I learned how to do that on my own without needing them to have comp characters. And I started being able to hear their voices in my head more clearly. So it's absolutely a process. It does not always come easily, especially when I'm creating characters. Their voice does not come all at once. When I sent out my first draft of the Love Trials, I had multiple characters in there that were just cardboard cutouts that didn't have a voice, that didn't sound like anyone, and it took revisions to start to figure out who they were. So don't put pressure on yourself, but that is something that really helped me. Alrighty. Um, no, I haven't, but I have heard of that book. At least I don't think I have. Let me see. I'm gonna look it up because might recognize the cover. No, I actually haven't. Um, I haven't read that, but I have heard of it. Is Amazon worth using as a platform for a first book, or do you have better recommendations? I think it's worth using. It's a huge player in the self-publishing world, and they are kind of the go-to for self-publishing a book at the beginning. So, yes, I would recommend using Amazon. That is kind of where a lot of people go to shop for books too, and it's where people expect to find books. Like a lot of people are in Kindle Unlimited, and a lot of people have Kindles. So, yes, I do strongly think that it is worth using. I've seen you. Thank you so much. I'm so glad that you like my videos. I've seen your videos on self-publishing, but do you have a series of classes taking writers through the process and navigating all the things to consider? I don't have a class or a course or anything. I just make YouTube videos. I am interested in maybe doing this as like a YouTube video series. I am curious if this is something that you would like to see, like I would just make them as like a free resource on YouTube. I wouldn't do it as a paid course or anything. But if this is something that like would be very useful to you, would you mind just writing down like in order the kind of things that you would like like the videos to be on? Because I've been doing this for so long, it's kind of hard for me to think about what step one is versus step two, three, and four. But if there's like a rough order of like just the kind of things that you would like to learn, could you just like quickly write that as a comment and then I'll take a little screenshot of it? Because would actually be a really, really great YouTube series. So yes, I do want to make that. Alrighty. Um, a quick question about tense. Were all drafts of They Stay written in first person present tense, or did this change? And why did you choose this tense? Thanks. It's funny that you asked this because no, when I first wrote They Stay, it was not in first person present tense. It was actually in third person past tense, I think, or I I think it was in third person past tense because I'd never written a book in third person before. I'd only been writing in first person. And I just wanted to see what it would be like to write a book in third person. But then I was workshopping the book with my advisor in college at the time, and he was telling me that there were just parts of the book that felt really emotionally disconnected, and like he followed what was happening but he wasn't feeling the emotions at all. And I ended up writing the first chapter again in first person as just an experiment to see if that would ground the emotions more, and I submitted that, and he said that that was like that made a world of difference. And so I was like, first person is my tense, and that's where I'm most comfortable. And it was cool to do that as an experiment. And a lot of people are very successful writing in third person, but it just wasn't the right fit for me. So I went back to first person and I wrote all of the books after they stay in first person present. And I wrote Love Trials in first person present, and I'm continuing to write in first person present. And that's just the tense I like to write in. I like to write in it because it's such a deep point of view. You can really, really get into the characters' heads, and you can deeply get into their experiences. It is like, obviously it's a little bit weird to be reading a written account of something that somebody is saying is happening to them right now, because obviously that person is not sitting down in this fictional universe writing down what is like what had happened to them as it's happening. So it is a little quirky, but I lose myself in it when I read in first person present tense, and I can really deeply feel everything and all the characters' emotions that way. And so that's how I like to write. Um, I watched your video on everything you did for the Love Trials launch. Oh, thank you for watching it. How far in advance did you start in order to finish in time? Um, so I think I don't remember if I expanded on this in the video, but I put together that Gantt chart of everything that I needed to do for launch in February, and then I released in April. So it actually wasn't too far in advance. I knew that I was like I'm pretty sure I put the book up for pre-order in January because I was at a point where I was pretty confident that I'd be able to finish the book, and I don't like setting myself up with a hard set pre-order until at least I have like a first draft and a workshop draft, and I know roughly how long it's going to take for me to take it across the finish line. And with Love Trials, because it was a new book one and all the characters were new, I needed to do a lot of work to it between beta reading and when I published it. So I already was like a few months into my revisions of the beta reading version before I put it up for pre-order. But once I had it up for pre-order and everything was like kind of set, then I worked backwards and figured out in order to do like a direct sales pre-order, how long like did I need for the books to arrive from being ordered? How long did I need for the cover designer to do that their thing? How long did I need for the artists to like design and draw the art that I was going to send along with the pre-order? And I just worked backwards until I roughly got to where I was in February, and I was like, well, I guess we need to hit the ground running right now. So yeah, I worked backwards from everything and did it a few months in advance. But I think the earlier that you can do it, the better. The only thing is that if you do it really early, you don't necessarily know how long things are going to take for you to do, especially if you haven't done them before. Like now I'm doing book two. I have a pretty solid idea of how long it's going to take for shipping to happen, and how long it's going to take for me to pack orders, and how long it's going to take for me to work with artists. And then I budget in like, padding time and stuff like that. But because I've done it before, I have a pretty solid idea of how long things are going to take. So I feel pretty confident about my release date that I've already set for book two. I just haven't announced. And I've already started working backwards to put together my launch plan, and I've booked my cover designer and all those things. So I'm very, very psyched about it. But yeah, those kinds of things kind of come from experience. So it's really good to keep a note of when you do like your first one, like you take your best guess and you have an informed guess, but then afterwards you adjust that based off of what actually happened and use it to inform your next launch. Alrighty. Um, let's see. Oh, thank you so much for your very, very generous gift. And thank you for your question. So, a lot of authors are using AI to generate books, and a lot of beta readers are using AI to analyze manuscripts and generate feedback. Is the industry untrustworthy? How do you know who to trust? Yeah, this is really hard. So, I don't use AI to write my books. I write my books. I think it's really hard to know with beta reading who uses AI and who doesn't. I think that you can kind of tell when a beta reader has used and like run your stuff through AI if like their comments are extremely generic, but you can also really tell when beta readers are human beings that are having real emotional reactions to your story. So I don't know how you can really weed these people out. If you do beta reading applications and all of the application responses look like they were generated by AI, don't pick that person to be a beta reader. If someone looks like they were a human being when they filled out the beta reading form and then all of their responses look like they were generated by AI, do not let them beta read again for you. It's I don't I mean, at least that's how I would approach it. I don't You have to kind of still put yourself out there to find new beta readers, and you need to find like put yourself out there to like cast a pretty wide net, because a lot of people who are human beings who beta read for you or say they'll beta read for you don't actually end up following through, and you want to make sure that you have a lot like a large enough sample size and a large enough team to get feedback from. So I don't know, it's a really stupid situation because there's just no real way to fully protect yourself from it. It's becoming incredibly pervasive. Like so many people are using AI, and I personally hate it. I personally like feel very strongly that like I don't want if am asking for a human beta reader and somebody is just running my book through AI, that's a breach of trust and that's not a nice thing to do. But people are going to do it anyway, and there's not a lot that I can do to protect myself from it. So I do everything that I can, and things happen. I think that a lot of people, just in general, I think a lot of human beings are kind of untrustworthy. And so you have to take, the steps that you can to protect yourself. And try to weed out people as best you can to try to like put together a team that you can really trust. But it takes time. There's no way to put together a team unless you're really putting yourself out there and finding the people amongst large nets that you cast that you really like. And then when you find people that you really like, hold on to them, because there are some absolutely incredible people out there that I would not have found and been able to add to my team if I hadn't been like putting myself out there and trying to cast a wide net for beta readers. So yeah, that would be what I think about that. Um, Alrighty. What's your opinion on attending writer conferences? Not for the rah-rah motivation, but that I will have a book ready to present or pitch. Oh, do you mean, sorry, could I ask you to clarify your question a little bit? Do you mean like that you're going to have a book ready to pitch and present at the conference? Um, and you're asking whether it would be worthwhile for you to go to that to pitch your book, like to get an agent in traditional publishing. Because I think that, I mean, I know there are traditional publishing or traditionally published authors who have found their agents through going to conferences. So I know that that's like actually a thing that happens. I think it's like a little bit, it doesn't happen all the time, but I've gone to conferences where I've had like the opportunity to pitch agents and have one-on-one time with agents that has been very useful. And I've been able to query agents after that as well. So, oh, yes, not that I have a formal opportunity, but that I have a thing I'm ready to share with the world. Yeah, I mean, I think that it's something that you can do. I think it really depends on the conference, and I think it depends on what your goals are. If your goals are to get an agent, I think that your real main thing that you should be doing is querying your book. I think that you can absolutely have FaceTime with an agent, but I went to a conference a couple of years ago that I thought was going to be more of like a pitch heavy conference because they used to have like a pitch slam. It was like the Writer's Digest conference. And they used to have a pitch slam where you could like go, like they'd have a ton of agents in the room and you could dart between agents to talk to the agents and talk to tons and tons of agents in one room. And I thought that would be a really cool opportunity. So I had a book ready to pitch for the pitch slam, and they ended up changing the rules that year. I don't know if they went back to pitch slam after that, where they did agent one-on-one. So you only had the opportunity to talk to one agent. And so that was a little bit disappointing because I didn't have like the wide range of possible exposure that I wanted to have. But that conversation I had with that agent was still really useful. So I think it's helpful, but I don't know if that agent would have been the right fit for that book. I haven't ended up querying it. I jumped right into doing the love trials, and that one's kind of sitting on the back burner. One day I might query it, but the conversation I had with her was useful. I don't know if she would have been the right agent for me or for that project. So, and because I only met one, like it didn't really give me a large range of experiences. So I don't know. It was a lot of time and a lot of money to attend. I don't know if it is the best like number one strategy for when you have something that you want to share and like want to find an agent and want to traditionally publish. I think that focusing on querying is a very good idea. And unless you find like a conference that has something like a pitch slam that has a lot of agents and it's known for trying to connect agents and authors, maybe that would be something that's worth going to. But I would focus on querying probably. But that's also, I don't have a lot of experience with traditional publishing. I'm a self-published author, so take what I say in this regard with a grain of salt. Hi, your placard video helped me a lot. Thank you. Oh, I'm so glad. That makes me very happy. One question, are acts usable for plots and story arcs and character arcs, or only for plots? Oh, do you mean like acts like parts in a book? Um, do you mean like act one, act two, act three, like in a three-act structure? Could you let me know before I answer that question? Maybe just clarify what you meant by that, because I just want to make sure I give you the right answer. I'll come back to your question. Have you ever done group brainstorming? Should I worry about an idea being taken at a meetup? I have not done group brainstorming ever, so I don't really know how that works. I don't know what the expectations are either. Like if it's you're doing a group brainstorm, but the ideas are yours, or if it's like other people that are helping you brainstorm and then you help other people brainstorm. I think it depends on the group of people. I know that it's a huge worry that other people are going to steal your ideas, and a lot of people do worry about ideas being stolen. And I totally understand why, but also so many like most ideas under the sun are not 100% original. And it's very rare to have an 100% original idea. Your originality comes in your execution, and you can tell, like, you can be have the exact same idea as somebody else. And like in my book, my pitch of, a serial killer known for taking couples accidentally takes a pair of enemies instead, that has been used by other stories already. That is not 100% original, but the way that I approach it in my book and the way that I tell that story is original because it hasn't been done that way before. And that's the case with a lot of other stories and types of stories as well. So even if, somebody takes a high level idea, they're not going to be able to do it the exact same way that you are going to be able to do it. And your originality is in your execution. So I think that I would, I have never done it, so I don't really know. I don't know if I can give you a really, really strong answer here, because I haven't done group brainstorming, but I would just, be thoughtful about the group that you are in, and I guess have an idea of the people that you're brainstorming with, and have an idea of the expectations of like what the purpose of the group is. Alrighty. Let's see. How do you deal with later chapters of your first draft contradicting your earlier chapters? I'm trying to be a pantser, but the plotter in me wants to go back and correct those early chapters. Don't worry, the revision version of you will go back and correct those early chapters. I find this very annoying and frustrating when I'm drafting. This is a pet peeve of mine. I like it when everything lines up. I get frustrated when things just like really don't match up and everything feels like I'm drowning in the draft and nothing makes sense and nothing is clear. That's typically why when I'm writing a draft, if I realize that I'm about to go off the rails or like do something that's super, I mean, not go off the rails, but if I've discovered a much better way to do something, I won't plow forward and finish the book. I will restart and then I will continue onward, which is why, like, at the beginning, when I was or in a lot of my writing projects, I would start a book and then I get to like 75% of the way through and I'd be like, I know that I'm taking this in a direction where the beginning doesn't match up. I'm going to start again and then I'm going to go forward and I'm going to start again and I'm going to go forward. And eventually I start again and I reach the end of the book. I'm I don't know if this is the best way to do it, but this is the way that works the best for my brain. So I'm currently doing that for the first time with Love Trials Book 2. I made it till about halfway through, and then I realized that I wanted to completely change. I got this incredible idea for a different serial killer villain, and that was like still in a similar genre, but just way more interesting and way more fun, and I just wanted to do the other idea. So I had to go back to the beginning and I'm rewriting it to fit with the new serial killer profile, and I had to do that before like the ending sequence happens where they have to confront the serial killer, because I didn't want it to be like they spend the first half chasing a completely different serial killer than the one that they end up catching. So that's typically how I do it. But you can be a plotter and a pantser, and both of those things complement each other and support each other and exist together in you as a writer. So it depends. You have to figure out whether it makes more sense for you to stop and start again, or whether it makes sense for you to just continue on with the draft and then have the plotter version of yourself be the editor version of yourself, and you allow yourself to edit it afterwards. So that's what I would recommend. Um, wow, I thought it would be at least 6 months of work before launch. I mean, it is, but I mean, I've been working on the book for a long time up until that point. Like I started writing Love Trials, I think in May of 2025, and then I published it in April. So I'd been working on the book for a long time, but my actual organizational process of like having it go to the editor, having like ordering all the copies and organizing for launch and getting everything like ready to ship out to everybody was just a few months. It wasn't a full 6 months. But I was also working like a maniac. Like I was pulling ridiculous hours trying to pull that together. Wow, these are all such awesome questions. All right, let's see. Um, I paid 250 to Writer's Digest. Oh, is that Writer's Digest University for their one-on-one agent feedback? And I got two sentences after making a change she suggested and resubmitted. That's better, good work. Very disappointing and felt like a ripoff. Yeah, I don't recommend the Writer's Digest one-on-one agent feedback situation. I didn't know that they offered that as like something that isn't in their conference, but I did go to their conference, and I mean I had a good conversation with the agent, and she was like, "This sounds interesting, like send it to me." And then I just ended up working on the Love Trials, and I didn't end up finishing that book all the way through. But it was interesting, but it wasn't groundbreaking, and it wasn't worth all the time and the money. The only reason I went to that conference is just because I won their the self-publishing award, and so they paid for me to go to the conference. So that was kind of nice. I just like I didn't have to pay for the agent one-on-one or anything else. So that ended up being a good opportunity for that. But if I had to pay, I would have been extremely frustrated too. If it had been a pitch slam, it would have been different. Like I really do think that the way that they used to do it sounded like it was cool. Like how they had 30 agents in a room and you walked between the agents and had conversations. That sounds like it would be pretty worthwhile and a very cool experience to actually have to like stand in front of someone and verbally pitch your book. All right, let's see. It's not so much an idea as much as it is the execution. Peter Pan, Narnia, same idea. Kids go to a fantasy world. Execution, Peter Pan, they live adventures and fight pirates. Narnia, they survive war. Yeah, exactly. So at a high level, there are only so many stories, and so many stories are the exact same at a high level, but it's the execution that makes it original. All right, let's see. Also, I'm sure we all know how nearly impossible it is to get people, family, friends to even listen to our idea, much less want to read our book. I'd be honored if someone wanted to steal it. Yes, that is so true. Um, let's see. Oh, thank you so much for that. That's very, very kind of you. Claire, if you self-publish, what is the best way to give your book best visibility? Do you recommend working with influencers or you be the influencer? Yeah, so this one's really tricky. This one is highly dependent on your book and your book's marketability, whether like or whether it's actually going to be successful on social media. I found that certain books do much better on social media than others. I struggled for years to try to get They Stay to hit something on TikTok, and it never ever did. Like They Stay just never clicked on TikTok, and Love Trials clicked on TikTok, and I can market that on TikTok and earn a healthy living from marketing that on TikTok and on social media, just because it's a plot that does better, and is like more algorithm friendly. So I think it really depends. Like there's no magical, like if you publish any book, you can market on socials. Like there's a different marketing plan for every single different book. And there has to be, just because the market and your readers are hanging out in different places. Um, so it really, really depends what you write. I have never had success working with influencers. I have sent many copies of the Love Trials out to influencers since it came out in April, and I have not heard from a single one. Even the ones that I've sent copies to, like I haven't heard that they've read it, they haven't made a single post about it, or like maybe they'd make an unboxing post, but then they haven't actually read it or engaged with it. So I don't know if they're actually like reading it or liking it. But so it's an extremely unreliable way to market that I have found. I do really like creating like street teams, and that has been really cool. And that's been way more successful. It's just like getting together groups of people who really love the book and who like making posts on social media. And they can like make a bunch of posts, and like they might not have a million followers, but they're very enthusiastic and they're like always like putting stuff out there and starting conversations. And that's been much more successful than like sending a free book out to a person with a million followers who isn't really going to read the book necessarily. But maybe I'll be surprised and they actually one day do read the book. But yeah, it's been a few months now and crickets on that. So I don't really recommend working with influencers. I think, unfortunately, in today's day and age, a lot of publishers, and especially in the self-publishing world, kind of demand that you be a little bit of an influencer, or at least that you have a presence on social media. Not like, as I mentioned, not every single book is made and cut out to do really well in like social media algorithms, even if it's an incredible book. And so, like, it might not be the best place to sink your time into. Like, it might be better for you to look into Facebook ads or Amazon ads, or different forms of paid advertising can be a lot more effective. And some people find a lot of success like doing like in-person events too, and that's a really big part of their business model. Like, you have to kind of figure out where your readers hang out. And it really depends on your genre and the kind of books that you write. So sorry if that's kind of a vague answer, but not every single self-publishing, like not every successful self-published book requires you to be on social media or work with influencers or be an influencer. But if you have a book or a plot that works well on social media, then it can absolutely be a life changer and really, really help. So that's what I've learned. Alrighty, let's see. Do you work on multiple projects at once, or do you like to fully finish a project before the next? What if you get an amazing idea for a totally new story while mid-writing? I like to do one at a time, and this is a little frustrating when sometimes I really don't want anything to do with the one that I'm writing, although that only happened to me a couple times. Where I can only really remember that happening to me once. I was in the middle of writing the last They Stay book, and I just really wanted to work on something different, but I forced myself to stick it out and see it through until the end, and I'm really, really glad that I did. I'm not very good at writing multiple things at once. I get so immersed in the world that I'm in, and I just need to be fully immersed and see it all the way through. What I really like doing is I like to noodle on ideas and brainstorm and put together brainstorming like the story arcs and notes in my journal and things like that for other books in that I'm interested in writing while I'm writing a writing project. So if I get that like amazing idea, I will plot it out, I'll flesh it out, I'll play with it, I'll like daydream about it, I'll listen to music, I'll think about it a lot, and I'll put all of the information and all of the ideas that I have for it into one place. So when I do eventually wrap up the project that I'm working on and move away to a different one, and like I can write that project that I'm already a little bit ahead because I've been thinking about it for a long time. So that is a way that I kind of write two projects at once, or I will try to stagger them based off of like a publishing schedule. So if like this is what I'm going to do for Love Trials books 2 and 3. As soon as I send book 2 of the Love Trials off to beta readers, I'm going to be drafting book 3, and then I'll get book 2 back and I'll work on that. And then after I think once I send book 2 to the editor, then I'll go back to book 3, and that's how I'll kind of work at them like on them at the same time. But I've never been someone who can draft two books at the same time, like work on one day and one the other. I need to be fully focused and fully invested. Alrighty. How do you deal with the constant tinkering? I can't read my work without changing something, even after I think it's finished. Yeah, this one's tricky. I think that I mean, there's a balance here. So at some point, you need to learn how to let it go, and you need to make it the absolute best that you can, and then you have to let it go. Tinkering on the same project forever is not going to help you improve as a writer. However, tinkering for a certain amount of time does allow you to improve the product. So there is a balance there. The way that I do it is I force myself to actually release the book. Like, I will do absolutely everything I can. I will turn over every single stone. I will work with beta readers. I'll work with critique partners. I'll work with my editor, and I will go in nitty gritty detail and tinker for a set number of months. And once I've tinkered and once I've done my final proofread, like I was doing my final proofread and still tinkering as I was going. And once the book comes out, I just don't touch it. and I don't read it again. That has not been true of the love trials. I've read it again, and that's the first book that I've ever written and published where I have read it again and I haven't wanted to tinker with it. I'm just so proud of it exactly the way that it is that I don't want to change anything about it. But I haven't been able to read some of the They Stay books because I know that I'm going to want to tinker. So I think you have to kind of give yourself enough time to tinker where you're really proud of the product, but also know when you need to let it go because you don't want to be tinkering forever. It is tricky though. I totally understand where you're coming from. All right. We have been talking for almost an hour, so I think I'm going to do one or two questions and then we are going to call it because I'm going to lose my voice and I need to go back to drafting for the day. But thank you all so much for being here and for watching and for engaging with me. I am really loving this time of day. It seems like this might be a time of day that works better for for me to do these live streams. So I will be doing this again. All right, let's see. There's so many good questions. I just want to answer all of them. Let me see. Hi, so I'm the opposite of you. I'm a major underwriter. How exactly do you overwrite? Do you write too many scenes, too much description? Are you redundant, etc.? Yeah, all of the above. Um, I tend to over explain things to myself and to the readers at the beginning, like in my first drafts. Like I will have way too much internal processing. Like something will happen, and then my character will think about the thing that happened for a long time and like reiterate what happened, and then I'll move on with the scene. Like, so I'm very, very redundant, repetitive and redundant um, in my first drafts. I also definitely like I will write really long descriptions in my first drafts because I'm trying to figure out visually what the world looks like and then I'll cut them back later. I will write too many scenes sometimes if, I will over flesh out a character's arc and I will just spend too much time adding extra scenes. So yeah, a bit of all of it. I don't know exactly. It's actually like a problem for me that I'm really trying to work on. I'm trying to be more intentional about my scenes, and I'm trying to be at least more intentional. I mean, I'm always a little bit of a bulky writer, and I kind of like being a bulky writer because it helps me figure out my stories while I'm working on them. And so I overwrite for me, and then I cut down for my readers. Um, but yeah, I mean, Love Trials is a very, very long book. It's about 610 pages and 178,000 words. And that was after like, my first draft was 200,000 and then my second draft was 240 and it was, very, very bulky. So I don't really know how to like my tips for overwriting or like if you wanted to be a wordier writer because my problem has always been the opposite, so I don't really know what my best advice would be for that, but I know I did make a video on it where I spent a lot of time like reading other people's experiences and trying to think about what to tell people. So if you're interested, I have that somewhere on my channel. All right, and one more question. Thank you all so much for all of your questions. I'm sorry that I can't get to all of them. I am so, 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 so grateful for you spending the time to come out and to talk with me. All right, let me see. Um, I just want to answer them all. Let me see. Okay, this is one that is a little bit different from the other ones that I've already answered. How do you get the voice to shut up that says it's not good enough, even if I have 5 stars on my other books? This is really tough. I totally understand where you're coming from and how you're feeling. I answered very similar question in last week's Q&A video that I posted to the channel too. And it is very difficult because I know like I'm also a perfectionist. I'm a total perfectionist. My voice like in my head is always telling me that things are not good enough and that I could be better. And I think that there is a balance between where a little bit of that is actually really helpful because it is motivating and it pushes you to want to be better and grow as a writer and learn more. And I think overcorrecting and totally getting rid of that inner voice and like shutting it up completely is a little bit counterproductive. But there's a balance because if you don't shut it up a little bit, then it can be debilitating and it can just be you torturing yourself. So it's like kind of finding a little bit of a balance where you're still self-critical enough that you always are trying to strive to be better, but not so self-critical that you're just you hate your writing and you hate your life, because we don't want that either, because writing is supposed to be fun and writing is supposed to be playful. Um, so what I try to do is focus on what I love about my story. And I think what has made the Love Trials a very different experience in publishing that for me versus They Stay, because I would get reviews on They Stay that were negative. I mean, obviously, I get reviews of everything. I've had tons of negative reviews of the Love Trials and They Stay and everything. Like I get negative reviews. And the ones from They Stay really got to me, I think, a little bit more than the ones from the Love Trials. And I think it's because I love the Love Trials so much. And I wrote my absolute dream book, and I wrote everything that I loved in it. And I just love it with my entire whole heart. And other people don't love it. But to me, I feel really okay with that because I love it so much. And I know that I set out to accomplish what, like, or I know that I accomplished what I set out to, because it creates the feelings inside of me that I wanted to create. And I think because I love it so much, that gives me more confidence and doesn't make me as insecure about it. And when people say, like, this really wasn't my thing, I did not like this, I didn't agree with this, it doesn't get to me the same way as maybe a review on They Stay, where I was a little bit more aware of, like, oh, I'm not really sure whether this is the right decision, but I'm just gonna try this anyway. And I think that that might be part of the reason, is just because I wrote my absolute perfect story. So remember that you are writing for you. Like, yes, you're writing for readers, but you're writing for readers who are like you. First and foremost, you're writing for you. And if you love this story, and if you are obsessed with this story, and if you love your characters and you love your plot and it's making you feel all of the emotions, that is your main goal while writing. Instead of focusing on, like, everybody else, that, if, or focusing on whether or not other people are going to give it 5 stars, try to write a book that you yourself want to give 5 stars to every single day. And if you write a book that you love that much, I guarantee you there will be other people out there that are similar enough to you, because none of us are so unique that our tastes are, one of a kind. There will be other people like you who love it that much too. So that's typically how I get the voice to shut up, is just like by taking action and keeping myself self-critical enough that I'm pushing myself to do that and putting myself in the uncomfortable s- space of doing that. But really, at the end of the day, focusing on making it the best product that I can for me and making it feel all the emotions, or making myself feel all of the emotions that I want it to. So I hope that that helps a little bit. That's how I think about it. But I totally know that it's hard, and also accepting that not every single, and this is a little bit tricky for me, because I've always been like, I need to make sure that the book that I write next is better than the previous one, and that's always my goal. But accepting that every book is going to be a little different, and it might land differently with different people, and some people might love one story and not like another story as much, but that's just them, and that doesn't mean that the other story is not as good. So it just, stories are different, they're going to land differently with different people too. So focus on your love for it, and at the end of the day, that's really what grounds me. But okay, I think we've been here for an hour. That's all the time that we have today. But thank you so, so, so much for attending this live stream. Thank you for so many of you for attending this live stream. This is incredible. I hope that you enjoyed it. I hope that it was helpful. I would absolutely love to do more of these, and I plan to do more of these. It looks like this is probably a more convenient time for a lot of people, because we had a lot more people join us today than we did. Oh, thank you so much. That's so kind of you. Thank you for all of the love that you guys have shown me today and the channel. I'm just very, very, very grateful for all of you. And yeah, if I will try to do more of these at roughly this time. And if you have any questions about writing, just, think about them, hold them in your brain. And if I didn't get a chance to answer your question this time, I will absolutely try my best to do that next time. But thank you so much, everybody. I really, really appreciate it, and happy writing.